The video you're watching may be of interest to only maybe 200 people. It's concerning a no longer available, at least technically, video game called Rust Legacy. Originally called Rust when it was released in Christmas time 2013 and then stopped being available Christmas time 2016. The game was produced by Facepunch at the time and currently headed by Gary Newman, who is famous for making Gmod or Gary's Mod. It was distributed through Steam primarily or exclusively depending on what time period. The game was in full development cycle from late 2013 or beginning of or maybe late 2012 depending on where you look, all the way till mid 2014 when the game was announced to be effectively being abandoned because they were switching over to what was called later on Rust Experimental. The game originally was built by hand building the entire game. Some parts were built using utilities to create terrain or objects or whatever, and also assets were grabbed. I'll have a whole video on that later. But the main thing is, part of the game had to be built hand-coded or hand-built. And it's hard to do that. Unless you've done this, you don't know. So they decided to use procedural generation to make it to where they could make small or big maps and make it to where they didn't have to work on every little bit. And I agree with that. Now, on screen right now, you're looking at an overhead view of the gaming environment. We're going to call it a map, and this one's referred to as the color map. First thing that we're going to have to do is a disclaimer. When you look at pictures that are used inside of a game engine to build something, the pictures are for creating a two-dimensional reference for something. And the color, the bright and dark, all of the characteristics you and I use are not used the same way. The computer is going to see more data in between the pixels than we do. There'll be many layers. There's a file format in here. There may be commentary. Who knows? It's not going to show up on the screen. This one's called the color map for the level or scene or the file set or the environment or gaming area called Rust _Island _ 2013. Okay? Now that's the important thing. It's Rust Island 2013 and this is its graphic. Now I've converted all the graphics because some of them are flipped or inverted or whatever. This is the best I can do. And it's wrong because it's rotated 90 degrees to the left. There's reason for that. Again, just like images can contain all sorts of crazy amounts of data that you can't see, some of them are in formats that make it to where looking at it the right way makes them look completely wrong. Right now we're just looking at the color map and it doesn't have any color. That's all there is to it. Let's move on. Now we see a much more useful map. Now, if you're not aware of it subconsciously, your mind is taking the fact that you're in an environment where most likely there's a light above your head, which is the default the human brain switches to. And that's great. That means that if it's lit from the top, we can see shadows and we can see what sides are below or behind a light source. Our brain kind of figures this out because this is how our brain works. The trouble is, it's rotated 90 degrees to the left, and if I rotate it correctly, it's going to look like the mountain ranges or canyons, and it'll look like all the valleys are hills. And it's really hard to fix that. So later on in the video, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees to look around, and you're going to have to put a light source to the right side of your face or some other thing. I don't know how to fix it. I can make my brain twist the images around because I've done way too much 3D editing and way too much game activities and modding. But I would understand if you stop watching the video at that point. So right now, these are oriented in a way that'll be less... I mean, seriously, you'll get a migraine working on this too much. But anyway, let's look at the map. Over on our extreme left, we have the crater. I'm going to call it the crater. This is the hill I'm dying on. It's an impact crater. It was all part of the game. There's a big conspiracy to hide the fact that there was an asteroid impact. Okay, fine. Next part, we have a mountain range in the upper middle part, which has what looks absolutely like... I swear that's got to be a landslide or that was going to be a ski area. But anyway, this is a mountain range here. And again here, this is, again, I'm going to die on that hill. It is a crater. This is an impact crater. Can't take that from me. It's an atom bomb went off. I don't know. And then over here we have another bent up little mountain range here that's kind of cool looking. And we have what looks to be yet another crater. We have an interesting coastline with little islands implied off the coastlines. Maybe for, I don't know, lighthouses? And the lower left we have what looks to be yet another mountain. We have another mountain right in the middle of our screen right here. And to the left of it you can see a ridge that shows, yeah, there's some cut lines in here because they cut and pasted pieces of the map together. Again, there was a lot of detail work here. Enormous amounts of it. Too much work to build the map. And then I'm going to zoom in over here, and we're going to see the main play area. There's a hint of a roadway that was dug out in the map. Someone had to sit there and do this using a terrain mapper and then export it and import it and fight with the Unity game engine this was done under. Now, I want to point out a couple of things. In the map, if you play the game, if you can download it, when you bring up a map by hitting the letter M, it will most likely make the bottom of the map, it's implied to be south, and the top of the map being implied to be north. But also, the sun rises in the south and sets in the north. So yeah, over on our right is the bottom of the map, and over on their left is the top. This is Mount Everest. A bunch of mountains. Yeah. And again, if I rotate it, it'll be confusing. But the thing I'm going to bring up here is, in order for us to be able to play in this area over here on the right here, just this area here where you can see kind of the roads, that area took anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on how you do the timing, for Face Punch. Okay, just that. To dress up the rest of this would take anywhere from 8 to 16 years of development cycle if they wanted to bring it to the quality that it had. And if you look at the game being played in video game playback, and even on my channel, it's not that good. That's why they switched to procedural generation, okay? But this map, or this image, has a shit ton of potential, and I'd love to exploit it. Now we're going to move forward to something I found while looking for this. This is the splat map that shows all sorts of interesting things. I'm going to zoom in on some of them. Here's the map of the... It's a road, but it's really a racetrack. The game originally came with race cars. It had zombies. It had all sorts of stuff. Also, it should be noted that it had all sorts of stuff off the coastline that's kind of interesting. And yeah, I did a video about how I'm upset that we had harbors and we had all sorts of stuff, but they put it over here because they realized it would literally take them a decade to finish it. So they had to put out something that's ridiculous time range. Now, you can also see that the splat map, as it's called, includes this black line for the road or racetrack. It also includes this one for one rad town. This is another rad town over here. This is the area where the this is the area where you have the hangar. Over here is some place that's called the bunkers. Over here we have another area with pillboxes looking like a coastline defense system. Okay. Now we're going to go on to what I discovered while I was looking around in the map, really, because I brought up the wrong image. Here we go. There's a second island. Instead of being called Rust Island 2013, it's Rust _Island _2. Yeah, this is not related to the other map. It doesn't have any of the... this is not a zoom in of some area on the map, apparently, at all. This really is a separate entire campaign you could have invoked at one time. And yes, it's technically possible through a command line to try to pull up, if it exists in the game, Rust Island 2 instead of Rust Island 2013 by default. You'd have to set up a server to do it. And if you're not aware of it, the server files and the game files are nearly identical. One of them goes into a mode called server mode, or host mode. And the other one just goes into game, playing Rust the game as the client mode. And yes, they can be combined together and modified, and it is possible, technically, I think, to bring up Rust Island 2. And it's right there. And I'm going to bring up immediately, we're going to look at its splat map. The splat map looks much more organic. All of these have soft edges or ridges or whatever. It really looks like it really is more of an organic, real ish map. It looks more like it's real. It has a mountain over here right by the ocean that would have a drop off into the ocean. Also, another part of it is it depicts the ocean with blue, which is much more common for this kind of map that I've looked up on other games. And when we go back, you'll notice that it just sort of blends into the ocean. The ocean is depicted as being roughly having a smooth bottom, like a shallow sea. When you look at this splat map, we see all sorts of things that are just kind of odd. We see an extreme cut line here because this was cut and pasted together to make it into what it needed to be. We have lots of little circles around peaks and lots of divots everywhere. And in fact, up here, you can see what should be a little lake, which I haven't gone to, but I'm going to do that. I got a lot of exploring to do. And here on the map, well, let me just bring that forward. Here's our lake, and if I move back, that would indicate that it's somewhere over here. There's a dip in the ground that goes underwater. There's a couple of places like that over here, too, that I found already. The point I'm making is this map had a lot of stuff planned. Maybe a ski resort. I don't know. It had an area for you to drive cars. Why not? And, again, the files themselves contain much more data than they're depicting. You know, it could be a 4 megabyte file, but it has like 1 mega visual stuff. The rest of the stuff's in there somewhere, and I don't know how to dig it out yet because I'm ignorant of that. But anyway, I just wanted to bring it up that, yes, there's a second island called Rust Island 2. And now we'll do this. Now, again, if you're watching this at home, you need to put a light source on your right side so it throws shadows correctly. Otherwise, it's going to look twisted and inside out. Okay, that's the last time I'm going to say it. Here we see what the map looks like when you're playing the game normally. If you bring up the map by hitting the letter M in the game, it'll pop up almost exactly looking like this. And down here is the oil field or oil barrels, and it was the largest rad town in the game. Then we have the road going this way. There's a barn here, goes this way. We have split rad with a little patch here. And over here is another barn. We go around this way, big dumb empty area. That's where people put all their modded areas. Then we have another rad town over here on the left side. Then we go through here. There's another set of buildings here. Then another big rad town. These blotches and patches that were banged into the map were so that they could put them in there flat, so they wouldn't have to change the height of buildings. They would build them in clusters of buildings or whatever and put them on. They wanted to be flat areas. Also, that matches with tendency of human beings when we terraform an area effectively by making flat areas to put our buildings. But again, I'll die on this hill. That is an asteroid crater. The map was enormous. Doing the rest of it would have taken up to a decade if they were to do it right. They did pretty good. They did the best they could, even though the map shows obvious signs of very frustrated editing and cutting and pasting on the part of the people at Facepunch. I feel them. I've been there, done that. And, well, that's really about it for the video. I just wanted to point out that, yeah, there's a second island buried in there, and I don't know if anybody ever used it. It does look familiar for some reason, if anybody wants to point it out. And if anybody has any insider data or knows of it ever being used, please say so. This may have been the prototype that was used in the original web-based game. I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And this has been a video about Rust Legacy, the game, and it having an extra island in it that I didn't know about until I ripped open the files. Goodbye.